Great. Well, thank you all so much for being here. I'm so excited to have you. As you know, I'm the host of the Preppy podcast. Every Tuesday, I have a new episode coming out, and this is our first live event. And so, first of all, thank you, Emily, for hosting it.
Thanks for having a great idea.
Yeah, your store is truly gorgeous. And thank you, ladies, for being on the panel today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I thought we'd start first with a little introduction to each of us, and then I was going to dive into the questions from all of you.
Perfect. I am Liz Eichholz. I am the co-founder and chief creative director of Weezie Towels.
I'm Emily McCarthy, owner of this store that you guys are in, Enjoy Club and all the things, and creative director to our brand.
I am Mollie Burch, CEO and creative director of Crosby by Mollie Burch, which is a women's ready-to-wear brand.
And I am Margaret, and I'm the artist behind M Studio, which is based here in Savannah.
Excellent. And I'm sure listeners know that I've had Liz and Emily on the podcast in the past to dive deep into their businesses and how they got started. And we're going to have episodes with Margaret and Mollie coming out shortly after this as well. And everything's being recorded for YouTube and wherever everyone gets podcasts, so they can listen to this after the fact too. But let's get started. So I'm going to start first with questions from the audience that you guys put in. So the first is, what's your favorite fashion era, and does it inspire your designs? And I know this one's for Emily, but I'm going to put it out there to all of us. But let's start with Emily.
I would definitely say like the Mad Men era. Like if any of you watched that show, I love when we're really embracing a lady's figure and showing off our figure versus like things that are like oversized. Like I just think it's really fun to design that way, and there's something very like classic and timeless about those silhouettes. And I like the idea of like bursting color into that in a modern way now. So.
Yes. Recently I thought about it, I'm like, I need to go back and watch Mad Men, because it's been years ago since I watched it the first time, and there's so much inspiration, like from clothing to interiors. Like, yeah. Mm-hmm. What about you, Mollie?
Probably like the same. I feel like 60s and 70s, just like color and print really like exploded in that time, and we're, very much print-driven brand, color brand, similar to Emily, and, just I love like using a garment as kind of a vessel for, this piece of art. And I really feel like that was the time where like silhouettes were simple, and like it really was a time to let like the print artwork and everything shine. Like Palm Royale that, just launched. I feel like I was just like taking pictures of my TV the whole time I was watching it, because I was like, this is so good. Like, I wish I could have just like lived in this era. So fun.
What about you, Margaret?
I'm going to leave this one the fashion girl.
When it comes to interiors, I feel like art has, it reflects interiors, and so maybe in that aspect, is there a certain style or?
I grew up in a very traditional home, mm-hmm. So I feel like even with my art too, there's such a harken back to botanical art and traditional art, but bringing, like Emily was just saying, like a fresh contemporary feel to things and a new vibe. I think I'm really a traditionalist at heart.
Yeah, I'm a little bit of traditional, classic mixed with like a pop of fun. Mm-hmm. Now, what about you, Liz?
I'm going to have to say 70s. Give me a bell sleeve and a caftan, and I'm happy. We just had a Studio 54 party for Halloween, and everything felt a little too natural. I guess Studio 54 is not technically the 70s, but the bell bottoms, the bell sleeve, it was just so fun.
Totally. Now, this is a really great question, I feel like, because there's lots of road bumps that happen in entrepreneurship and owning a business. So Megan's asking, what's something that seemed like a downturn or something bad that ended up being a blessing, or like a learning moment in hindsight? Who wants to start this one?
I can start.
Okay.
When we were launching Weezie, my co-founder and I went out to a ton of different factories and heard no, 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 no so many times to girls with no background in textiles. And in retrospect, it really was such a blessing in disguise, because we ended up with this incredible factory, 100-year-old, family-owned, with just wonderful people. So we didn't know at the time that all of those no's were going to lead us to them, but definitely a blessing in disguise in hindsight.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I think the saying is when one door like closes, go
Yeah.
and open another one for yourself. So sounds like it was a little bit of that situation.
For sure.
What about you?
I definitely think COVID was I'm sure everyone could say this, a bump in the road, and especially because we launched our brand and our first like wholesale collection to retailers in spring of 19, right? That's when I hit.
Yeah,
I'm like blacked it out.
I
Yeah,
know.
whatever. Yeah, 2020.
Yeah.
And you know, all this Mollie can appreciate all this inventory shipped. We're ready to ship to our first retailers, and everyone shuts down. We're like, what do we do with all this inventory? So we just got really creative and worked with our stores to just try to get it shipped. And we sold masks and we delivered orders. I'm looking at Susanna back there. Delivered orders all over around Savannah, driving around. Like we just did what we had to do to keep going. And the fact that we survived that with a brand new label, it makes what we're doing today like easy breezy, even though it's not. But it feels like if we always look back, like if we made it through that, like we've got the next challenge.
You can make it through anything. And it's funny actually because the podcast I started in the spring of 2020 as well. Because my PR business, you know, things kind of got hard and slowed down, and I saw clients struggling. And it's such a blessing. Like, look at this today.
Yeah, that's great.
What about you, Mollie?
I feel like for us, like, kind of like people have been a big piece. You know, I think like we've, you know, built a great team and, you know, have a great team now, but there's obviously always going to be kind of like an ebb and flow there. And I think, you know, there have been moments where we've maybe like lost an employee or something and thought like, oh my gosh, like how are we ever going to replace that or like keep going, you know, in the way that we were without this person. And then, you know, kind of one door closes, another opens. It's like you end up finding maybe someone who is even better suited for the role and it's bringing in new skill sets that maybe weren't there before. Or maybe you're not even fulfilling that specific role, but you're kind of reevaluating the business and what it really needs. And like, okay, well maybe this one role actually needs to be these two different roles. And so it just kind of like keeps you on your toes and like thinking critically about your business and what you need and all of those things. And so, you know, through the hardness of like losing a team member who, you know, I mean, we've been fortunate with our team, I would say, and haven't had a lot of turnover, but I do think in the moments that you have it does like force you to really think about your needs and maybe make pivots that you wouldn't have otherwise because you're just kind of like comfortable functioning the way you were.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, so much of our team are family members,
Mhm.
and then you're happy to see them go and fly and soar, but then you're like, oh, I have to train someone new and all of that, which is always overwhelming.
Yeah.
And then I started in 2022, so the COVID hit hard, and it's just me. So it's just me in the studio, and then the world just stopped, and it felt like, oh, how do I like keep momentum? How do I continue going? But at the same time, like you were saying, it's a blessing because I was able to really look into me, create, and kind of form the thing that I'm most proud of now, which is kind of my botanical collection. So it's kind of nice when things pause. You're able to really think and reflect.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so another question that we have is, what makes a great print or pattern design? And I know probably Emily and Mollie and Liz, you guys probably have a great answer for this one.
So you like it.
Yeah.
Like him as our director of merchandising right there. Sure, this question. It's a great question. Do you want to lead off?
Oh gosh. Sure. I think what makes a great print? Sales make a great print. But I think like in the fashion industry, I can speak to the fashion industry, but I'm sure in any industry, the fashion industry, it's so saturated, and I feel like, especially in the last handful of years, like so many print-driven brands have really kind of popped up on the map, and it's very saturated in the market right now. And so I think, like when we started, we're, entering into our 10th year of business. We just celebrated 9 years, and like when we started, like I feel like we really were kind of unique in the space as far as like this really bright, bold, graphic print brand, and now, there's a lot of that. And so I think just from like I think it's really important to like stay true to your brand and like your aesthetic when you're designing a print, even if like obviously you want to stay relevant, you want to be on trend with the trends, but it's such a balancing act of not just like chasing the trends and still like you need that hand, that kind of connection to your brand. And I think, you know, there's nothing more special to me than like someone saying like, oh yeah, I saw this, you know, woman in the street and I knew she was wearing a Crosby because I could just tell it was Crosby, you know, and it's like that's when you know the print, like just having that kind of invisible string tied through your prints and, you know, allowing your customer to be able to like connect to that and want to sort of like build their closet around that a bit is, you know, what makes it great. And again, sales.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
She's right. I think we try to, so like being a graphic designer at heart, that's what started this entire business. So it's funny when we do a solid or a novelty print that isn't something like that I was able to put my hand on the print, and it ends up being a top seller. I'm like, why am I here?
Yeah.
It's like the whole point of starting the brand was to bring the prints to life that we had on other products. So it's kind of funny to watch the evolution of the brand, but we try to tell a story. Of course, sales are part of that, like looking at scale and coloring. But we have found that the prints that really tell a story and has something to go with it, and inspiration, like our customers love that. There was a print last spring, the lily pad print. So spending many of my summers at my grandparents' house and looking at my mom over there in Tennessee. They lived on a lake, and I would go out in the canoe or the paddle boat and that they all had lily pads around the lake, which I know is like not a healthy thing, but whatever. And all the flowers would be blooming, and I would pick those and bring them back to my grandmother, and she would put them in these like big brandy glasses, and it was just like a memory, like moments in time. So we designed this lily pad print that to anyone else they wouldn't realize, but for me, it like I felt connected to that. And we were able to tell our customers that at market, at wholesale, and here on the retail floor. Not every single single print has a story, but usually one in each collection does. Yeah.
I love that story. That personal touch makes a difference for sure. Liz, did you have anything to add on?
Yeah, I mean, we think about print so differently because we're a homewares brand. So, you know, you change your towels and your homewares less often than you change your clothing. So we really have to strike the right balance between what is timeless, what is someone going to want in their home for 4 to 5 years. You're supposed to replace your towels every 2 years. So.
It's a good shopping.
And that was actually kind of a struggle for me to define, like, what are the Weezie prints? The bulk of our sales are still white towels. Most people want white towels in their home. And a really amazing outlet for me has been our collaboration. So being able to work with someone who their bread and butter is print, and I can gravitate towards something and say, that's going to look amazing in a woven or in a printed towel. That is a big way that we've expressed print at the company.
Yeah, you
and
guys
one of my
do a good
favorite
job.
aspects.
Yeah, I have some of
you.
your printed ones.
Oh,
and I
thank
love
you.
them,
Which ones
but-
did you get? Do you remember?
I don't know what it's called.
Okay.
But it's kind of like the spots. On
Oh,
it.
yeah, Millie.
The Millie, yes. I have that one in the
I'm a
blue,
white
and I love it.
I had the green trim and the blue
That
trim.
surprises me though.
But I like the
I know,
white towel
see?
with the
Yeah.
pop of color.
Look at these three in the middle.
It's like
The
the rooms
white
that they
towel.
go in. You have the white with the blue.
So, Mary Margaret, I'm curious. I look at your brand, and you know, obviously you focus on florals and botanicals, that aspect. I think starting a brand and continuing on a brand, it's so important to define and develop your style of your business. So, what advice do you have on that? Like, how did you find that was your style of art? That's what you're going to do, and then keep it consistently that.
Yeah, going off of what everyone said here, I feel like the market is so saturated now, and I don't know if it's just because it's constantly in our faces with Instagram. There's a new fashion label, there's a new jewelry maker, there's a new artist, there's a new interior designer. And I think if you have that entrepreneurial spirit, you so want to get moving quickly and start kind of pushing your product and putting yourself out there. But for me, it was just really important to take time to think about what my voice is going to be and what I could add to the world and what I wanted kind of my signature mark to be. So I took a year to figure it out, and I came up with this concept. It's called Preserved Botanicals, and I harvest leaves and lily pads from a trip that I took to Maine, and flowers from walks in my neighborhood, and I press them, dry them, and then I fix them to a wood panel using epoxy resin, and I also paint the botanicals so that they retain their color for forever and create a piece that you can pass down, from generation to generation. And I think, just like y'all were saying, if you have a story to it, which all of my stuff does, I'm lucky enough, I'm small, and I'm able to do, put my heart really on the canvas. And to be able to do, if you're able to do that, I think longevity is almost inevitable. I think your customer base and your clients will appreciate what you're putting out there if it's genuine and it's authentically you. At least that's what I've found.
Definitely. So Emily, we're here in your beautiful store that I cannot stop looking at every little detail. And obviously it's so well branded. Like, I look at the napkins and they have, your branding on them. I look at the art, and it's also well done and subtle and design forward. So can you talk to the audience of the importance of branding?
I think the reason why this was natural for me is because it goes back to the graphic design roots, that I designed brands for years, logos, full branding experiences. And so when it came to bringing this to life in a shopping and brand experience, it was like second nature to me. And we spend a lot of time on our, customer experience, what people, when they shop online, what print do they experience when they open a box, or the trim tape on the curtains in the dressing room is our logo on repeat across the, but for me as a graphic designer, I know you can speak to this too. It's easier for me to think that way, I guess, if you're not behind a computer, know how to create those things. But that's what it makes my heart sing. But I something else, it might be, it might be your towel quality or the stitch count. That's mind blowing to me. And so I think it's just what you have experience doing, and I wanted customers to experience it from a subliminal way throughout the entire shopping experience, rather than just putting our logo everywhere. It's about the moments. It's the story on the wall that led us here. It's the signature green that we had on the front doors of our old store. So it's all telling our story of our brand.
Yeah, and I think there's personal branding too. When I think of red lipstick, I think of you. I feel like you always have a great red lip on. Me personally, I'm always wearing some sort of pink. So I think it comes naturally, like you said, from your own personal lifestyle and background then a little bit, right?
Yeah, I don't know how else to be. And we were talking about branding today, and there's companies that have started strictly on a product, product-driven brand. But for me, it started with a blog and me just talking about life and things that I loved, and then branding, and then product design, and I was just being me.
Yeah.
So I think just staying true to yourself, what you were saying, is the only way I know how to be.
I love that. So, Mollie, you mentioned that you guys just celebrated 9 years. Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
What do you think has accounted for the staying power, and how have you evolved? I mean, fashion, like we said, it's a fickle industry. It's constantly changing. So what do you think has led to that longevity?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's certainly a roller coaster. I feel like there is definitely, you ride the wave for sure. I think it's a mix of, for me, both staying inspired, being able to remove myself from the day-to-day to think outside the box, but then also really coming back to our customer and who she is and what she wants and what she's shopping for. Because I think, as a designer, it's we have a top, it's the Maggie top, which was in our very first collection in 2016. And probably multiple people in this room own a Maggie top. And it's still our best seller to date. We've made it probably in 30 different prints at this point. And people still love it. And it's like, for me, I'm like, oh my God, the Maggie top again, like, come on. But at the end of the day, it's like, that is so like core to our business and our customer. And so being able to kind of like both simultaneously like stay inspired and, kind of stay on top of trends and maybe wanting to do, new fun things and introduce like fun new stuff to the consumer. You have to think that way, but then also like really stay connected to the customer and what she wants, because while I might be so tired of the Maggie, like that doesn't really matter if our customer isn't, and it's like, it's the Maggies of the brand that sustain it over those 9 years, while, the other maybe more fun stuff is, just, it's the fun stuff, and it still sells and it's fun and it's attracting a new customer in, a territory that we haven't tapped into yet. But it's just like understanding and knowing the balance of like, you kind of have that base, like that security, of your brand, and then mixing that with the fun, but like kind of keeping perspective on it all, I think, has been really important. And just like, you have to, understanding your customer and knowing who she is. And I mean, I think fortunately for, the brand started as with, like you said, with branding, like it is, especially with Crosby, it's my name, like it's an extension of myself, and so it's easy to design for myself all day long, but like it's always interesting to see how the brand evolves. And like, I think it has evolved to a point where like, yes, there are still elements of it that are myself, but there is also a girl out there who is the Crosby girl who maybe isn't me. And that's okay. And that's great, but like, how do I make sure I'm including her and being thoughtful of her when designing the collection? Because, that's just...
That's what pays the
Yeah,
bills,
so
right?
pays the bills.
So see.
Yeah.
I love that. So Liz, I know we talked a little bit one-on-one over there about collabs.
Yeah.
And I'm a believer that collabs are the key to success. I think everyone grows from them. It's so important. And you just launched one with Lady Lancaster. So I'm curious, how do you decide what's a good fit in terms of a collab, and then how do you measure its success?
Yeah. I love this question because it's one of my favorite aspects of my job. So how do we decide on collabs? I have a long dream list of collaborators, and we've kind of just been whittling our way through for the last 7 years. And for me, I really want the product and the collaboration to exist because the two brands are coming together. It's not something that either of us would produce on our own, or why are we doing this? And then it's also about the collaborator, the brand, their vibe, and then we want to work with someone who's equally as into it, who's going to promote the collab and really bring the energy that we need. We don't want to be doing all the work without a great partner, which we've luckily found in all of our collaborators. We've been lucky. And then how do we measure their success? A few different ways. Sales. We're not a nonprofit. We need the sales, we need the revenue. And then customer acquisition. Are we getting new customers? Are we getting in front of a new audience with this collaboration? Are those customers following us on Instagram? Are they signing up for emails? And then once they shop the collaboration, are they coming back? So we'll kind of follow them in little cohorts, we call them, to measure their success. And then also buzz. I'm sure that you can relate as being in PR, but it's giving us something to talk about on our own organic channels, but then are we also getting PR placements for it? So like I said, the bulk of our business is our tried and true white towels because they're the best on the market. I'm being biased. But it's these collaborations and this newness, like Mollie was talking about, that gives us something to talk about and something buzzy and keeps people coming back, and it really propels the business in a different way than our core product.
Yeah, that's such a great answer. I feel like there were so many
Thank
good
you.
nuggets in there for people with businesses.
I'm passionate about collabs.
Yeah, me
Lady
too.
Lancasters on the site. We have new ones coming, so stay tuned.
So Emily, we are here in your beautiful space, like I've mentioned a lot of times, because I seriously can't get over it. I know every time you post a picture of your office, I message you and I'm like, oh my God, it's so dreamy.
It's incredible.
It is so cool.
Yeah. So when did you know that it was time to expand and create this beautiful new location? Because I've been to your old space before many times. And then I noticed here too, with your clothing line, you're sort of just curating your own collection of clothes and then just bringing in some accessories. Whereas before you had, a curation from other designers. So what was that transition and decision behind here?
So space-wise, I would say we outgrew our space about 3 years ago. And from the public eye for our local Savannah customers, they probably didn't realize that this was going on. But since the clothing line expanded and, we're shipping and our store list is growing, we didn't have the facility to accommodate our fulfillment. So Julia right here was tackling a lot of that at the time. And if you went to our old store, there was a small building behind it, and we were trying to ship all these orders out of there, and it was rough for a long time. But these are all growing pains, and so I knew very quickly as we would get our orders in for the next season that there's no way that we could receive these goods where our current location was. So we looked for 2 or 3 years. Katie Chancey is a local real estate agent, and she would send me something and we're like, oh, it's not quite right. And so we were looking for a long time, and we went through a lot of growing pains at the old location. I know there's employees here that we all very much appreciate having more space now. So she sent me this listing and was like, this has been a car dealership ever since it was built. But to me, I saw a blank space, tall ceilings, a separation of retail and fulfillment, which is behind us, and something that you could paint white and have a blank canvas and have lots of parking. And I texted Joy, I said, will you just do a drive-by? She's like, yeah, I think this is great. And she would commit to me it was a really great idea at the time, whether she was doubting me or not. She trusted the vision. But so there we are. It took us about a year in renovations, and we actually shipped our first shipment here when there were literally nothing here but dirt, and we shipped out of here. We did what we had to do, and that's just what you do in business. But creatively with the branding, as our line grew and we were able to creatively have different categories of tops, bottoms, outerwear, dresses, the unique thing is that our stores can maybe carry 5 to maybe 8 styles or SKUs out of our monthly collections, which we can easily have. I'm looking at like in 35, 40 SKUs, 60. Maybe 60 sometimes. So that's 60 new styles.
It's like 30.
It's
60.
We were just talking about holiday, I think that was yeah. So stores don't get the opportunity to tell the full creative story of like why we designed that collection. So it was really fun to have the space to carry every single SKU of the very intentional collection, every style, every top bottom pairing, every outerwear, every look that we work on creatively for our photo shoots. JC back there styling looks, and we're able to like creatively get it all out there, which you can't experience in any other store.
Yeah.
So that does need a lot of real estate to do that. So we kind of felt like as a brand, we, of course, had Crosby for a long time. I've passed her to a very great local retailer. And it's just what we needed to do as a brand. And this is our flagship store. And, maybe expanding our footprint in some other places. This kind of gives future stores a place to like, this is our, branding experience at its best. So.
Well, it all looks beautiful, and I think that's so nice that you have your fulfillment right here too. It makes it so easy to manage it all under one roof.
Yeah, I was pretty adamant that like I can't manage all this. Lots of different locations. So,
Sarah, how are we doing on time? Do we have time for 3 more questions, do you think?
Yeah.
How's everyone's legs doing? We just do 3 more quick ones? Okay. Mary Margaret, so you recently added prints to your website.
Yeah.
So with that, that opens it up to a whole new consumer base. They're a little bit more affordable. It's much easier to scale instead of you painting each individual piece or working on each individual piece. So explain to me, that offering and the decision behind that.
Yeah, so I launched in 2020 and very quickly realized that I needed to diversify my revenue stream. Being creative is mentally and physically exhausting to do it 365 days a year and to have to make money only by having my feet in the studio in front of the easel. I just quickly realized that a business wasn't going to be sustainable that way for me. So to be able to bring in the prints, which are done here locally, I work with another creative here. He's a photographer. He prints everything on beautiful watercolor paper. The print job is so fantastic. You can see my brush strokes. And then I hand package and write a note to every single customer. So I'm so appreciative, and I think it's really a way for clients to kind of get introduced to me, and they see the product and the quality in the product. And it's been fun because not only is it more approachable financially, but it also kind of starts the relationship with the collector. So, for example, I just had a client who had prints in her kitchen in kind of her starter home in Fort Worth, Texas. And she's moving on to her bigger house. I was able to work with her and her designer to create 4 original pieces to fill her great room. And it's so fun to kind of be a part of an evolution and to create a customer relationship that spans the years. I feel very lucky that I'm able to get to know these people and know their families and know their history. So the prints really gave me a new foothold.
Yeah, a new entryway.
Yes.
I think that's so smart. So, Mollie, I look at your social media and your website, and all of your images are so beautiful. They're so well styled, and it's just, you and your brand there. So can you talk to the audience a little bit about the importance of brand imagery and investing in good photography and models and all of that? Because it's expensive, right, ladies?
It is an investment. Yes. You can ask our CFO here what the investment is like. But I think, for us, so we don't have, a storefront, a brick and mortar like, Weezie or McCarthy, and, but we are such a visual brand. And I think, a challenge that we face, like I am constantly, challenging our team and asking our team, like, how do we create this brand world, like this brand presence when we don't have like a physical space, to bring people in to experience that. And I think, to kind of cut through the noise that is the fashion industry, like having it takes more than just product to pull people in, to get someone to like, go through that process of checking out, saying like, yes, this is the piece I want. And I really do think it's like inviting people into that brand world and brand experience, kind of like, you've been talking about with your space, but we're attempting to do that essentially all virtually and digitally. So I think, and editorial photo shoots, they are an investment, but I do think they are, and verdict's still out how much they really drive sales, but I do think there's a lot of intangibles there of like, it's showing our customer like the Crosby world and like how, I envision this collection, like where is this girl, what is this kind of idealistic Crosby customer doing in her, fabulous holiday outfit? Like she's sitting in this Mad Men-esque like sunken basement in this amazing, mid-century modern home, drinking her dirty martini, like, at this fabulous holiday party, like, and that's, that's the photo we capture. And so it's just, I think it's just an extension of the brand and another way to kind of invite our customer in to experience, the inspiration behind the collection and kind of who we are as a brand. I do think though, like Liz and I were talking about this today, like there's such value in that, but then there's also the piece of like making, like having more of that human connection too. And like, so, you're doing the amazing photo shoots, but you're also filming all the behind the scenes on your iPhone and like showing, me maybe styling an outfit or setting a, you know, table that we're about to photograph. And I think that is really too like another layer to like connect with your customer and kind of show them like almost the thought process behind that final product. So that has become like such an important piece too. Like not only are we, you know, creating this beautiful editorial photo shoot, but then we're also showing, you know, we're on a beach and these models are in these tank tops and shorts, but then we pan and show the team all in their like winter parkas because it's actually 40 degrees outside, and that just makes it this kind of relatable, like, oh, like they're all, you know, they're just like me too, you know, it's just like, it's this like human connection and touch point that I think it's really allowed us to have with our consumer.
Yeah, it shows the lifestyle of the brand, right?
And we were talking about how hard it is because you can't just have the photo shoot anymore. You're going to have the photo shoot and then pause, let's light for video, and then shoot it vertical, and then wait, shoot it horizontal, and wait, also get the iPhone version of it, because it can't just be the professional version, because that's not
you jump in and judge the sleeve so we can get you, and they're it's all part of the process.
Which, speaking of which, Liz, I'm going to put you on the spot here. This wasn't something I had asked you, but we were talking about it. We had a conversation about creating video now.
Yes.
Video is like where everything is these days. We're filming video right now for YouTube, but YouTube and Reels and TikTok and all of that. So I'd love to hear, you know, your thoughts on that, because we chatted about it ourselves, and I think it's so valuable. And
so we launched Weezie in 2018 when Instagram was a very different place. There were no Reels. We got so many views on our stories, and today it just can't be only about Instagram. You're so inundated with so many brands on Instagram today that it's just a totally different platform. So I think we've just remained really open-minded. Never did I think I would be a 36-year-old with a TikTok, but here we are, and really just trying to lean into all these new platforms and learn from them. And I mean, video has really paid off for us. So we've leaned into not only professional video, but like I was saying, iPhone video too, revealing the curtain of the more human side of the behind the scenes of the business. And in 2025, YouTube is a really big initiative for us, where we launched our YouTube channel, and we're going to do house tours of the houses that we're shooting in.
So smart.
Yeah, it's been really fun because we connect with all these interior designers that are in our interior design programs, and then we get to go tell their story and show not only the beautiful bathroom, but the whole story behind these spaces. So I don't know, video is definitely not going anywhere. I think we kind of turned up our nose at YouTube. I hope I don't get dinged for that on the platform. But I don't know, YouTube felt a little antiquated, and now I find myself sitting there watching a full home tour on Homeworthy or Schumacher, and I'm like, no, I mean, video is definitely here to stay in short form and long form. So we're really investing in it a lot this year.
There's something nice about the long form. You know, I think we see so much of snippets. There's something almost relaxing and nostalgic about watching something in a long
I called her
format.
last Saturday, and she said she was sitting in her bed with a cup of coffee watching a home tour, and I was like, no!
And I told her, not in the house.
But also it reaffirmed, I was like, okay.
Yeah, I am your client.
It's a good
I love that. Well, this was so fabulous. I know everyone wants to shop and probably mingle with you guys and grab another glass of wine maybe. So I want to thank all of you guys for being up here with me today and sharing some, tidbits about your businesses and advice. And before we go though, can I do a video of everyone in the audience saying hi that I'll share on?
We also have a discount code.
Oh yeah,
Can I
go
share
ahead.
that? Preppy15.
Okay.
Preppy15 is 15% off Weezie through the end of December. For those in the audience and those watching.
Excellent. Thank you. Anyone else have anything?
And we do have a little rack of
shop over here.
samples that we have a team here to help you order, and we're offering 20% off of everything as well. So 20% off, free shipping, but that way you can kind of touch and feel the collection in person.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to do a video. Everyone just wave. I'm going to scan across the room. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Yay!
Thank you for coming!
Oh yeah, except Fred.
Yay!
Perfect. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.